So hello everyone, thank you very much for attending our 5th virtual Taking Time in Tech webinar. We've been running lots of virtual webinars this year. If you don't already follow Transition Partners on LinkedIn, please do follow us and keep an eye on all our events. We do regularly post our event schedule on LinkedIn. So Taking Time in Tech, the webinars, is predominantly focused around mental health and well-being. And I personally feel very strongly and passionate about this particular subject. And I know that particularly this year, it's become increasingly difficult for us all, for the whole world to manage that, and we've all needed a lot of support and help, and that was one of the main reasons why Transition Partners and myself set this webinar up. We really want to be able to give back to the community, and I really hope that everyone that we've got here today on this lunchtime session can take some, tools, a bit of advice, even if it's just one new thing that you can do or implement to help moving forward, it'd be great. And I understand it's coming up to Christmas. It's a really difficult time for lots of people at the moment now. So I do really hope that you can all get some value from the session. Following the session, I will be sending some feedback forms out to you all as well. So it'd be really good if you could provide some feedback, which really helps us to plan future events as well. So thank you in advance if you can complete those. So I'll now be handing over to the lovely Yasmin Ahkter, who is the head of Academy at NHS Digital, Northern Power Women Future List 2018, and Yasmin has kindly offered to facilitate these events moving forwards, and we've actually decided that we're going to run these probably every couple of months. Lunchtime, we found that lunchtime sessions work quite well for this sort of thing. I shall now hand you over to Yasmin, who will introduce herself and our lovely panel.
Andrew, you made me sound a lot more important than I probably actually am, and a lot more than I actually am. So, hi everybody. As Sandra said, I'm Yasmin. I'm head of Academy at NHS Digital. So, my role is to primarily attract and recruit the best early talent into NHS Digital, and my team are responsible for also looking after the trainees once they join the business. So I think particularly this year, as Sandra's alluded to, we're all working in a very different space and at different capacity as well. And I think something that we found within our team is that obviously we're bringing early talent into the business, and we wanted to have an increasing focus on people's mental health and well-being. So my team have been working very hard on providing a wellness and happiness series for our trainees to make sure that they all feel supported as they come into the business. And I think particularly with the demographic that I work with, it's something that's very, very close to my heart. So I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to host these moving forward. And I think our focus today is going to be discussing on battling anxiety in the workplace. So I think there'll be a lot of conversations around it. We're interested in obviously making sure the session's interactive, but I will introduce you to my lovely panel for today. And I think it might be nice for you all to, I guess, share a little bit of your own experiences of battling anxiety in the workplace, and that will hopefully help provoke some further discussion. So can I ask the lovely Steph to go first, if that's okay? Tell us who you are and what you do and why you're here.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Steph Varley. I'm the executive assistant for the directors of the Data Shed. I've been there for just over 2 years now, and I'm one of 4 mental health first aiders in the company. So I've kind of seen mental health from a support perspective, and then I've also suffered with social anxiety myself, and I've kind of seen mental health outside of work as well. I guess in terms of experience-wise, I've definitely had those days at work where I've just felt completely overwhelmed, and I'm not sure how I'm dealing with it at home compared to in the office, but I've definitely had those meltdowns in the office where I've just gotten to the point where even the printer not working, and I'm like, I'm done. I just need to get up and walk away because the smallest thing is going to tip me over the edge. I think at home has helped me quite a bit because I do have that space to just disappear and not have people, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody, which is quite nice. But I think for everyone at the minute, it's just a bit of a learning curve because we're going to handle it very differently at home to how we do in the office. I'm hoping maybe throughout this panel, we'll find out some good tips and tricks for how people are dealing with things at home.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point that you've raised actually about comparison in terms of being at home and in the office. Whereas if I'm in the office, I feel like I would be able to get out, but at home, I think I feel like I would have less space and I will sit here and I will work and I won't get out. And I think particularly at the minute with the lockdown situation that we're in, it's not like, I mean, there's nowhere to go, so you can't just nip out to the gym at the moment,
Yeah.
and as of tomorrow, but you know, there's various little routes that you can take. I think the dark night's coming in as well, so you can't just go out for a walk at sort of 3-4 o'clock because it's already getting dark. It's that kind of stuff, isn't it? And I guess it's, you know, which routes do you use to sort of make sure that you step away? So really interesting points. So Claire, I'm going to move to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire Pittaway and I work in the people team at Sky Betting and Gaming. I've worked there for about 5 years and my role is working in the comms team. So I look at the internal comms strategy and then all of the comms that goes on our careers site as well to recruit talent. So with my role, I guess my story sort of goes back to about 2018 where I sort of had a bit of a family crisis in my life and that led my mental health to really like go over the tipping point. And it was that time that I really took a step back. I've always had lifelong anxiety, but I guess within my role, like lots of people, when you've sort of gone through something really hard and like real trauma, I suppose, when you come out the other side, it sort of gives you that sort of driving passion to go and change the world, I suppose. And since then, I've sort of been on this mission to break stigma around mental health, sort of more serious conditions, but also about what mental illness looks like. And for me, I'm quite passionate about it because I think a lot of the time I come across as quite calm and I'm definitely an extrovert. And people don't relate that with anxiety. And sometimes I feel like I definitely can see the stigma, you know, if I try and share my experiences with people, I sort of feel like I have to sort of trivialize it myself and shrink back because of the way that people think anxiety looks. So breaking stigma for me is a personal passion. And I think we've done loads of work at Sky Betting and Gaming to sort of reduce stigma in the workplace. And I think for me, that's such an important thing to do in the workplace, dropping down barriers, showing vulnerability in leaders, role modeling that sort of behaviour. We've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's definitely set us up for success going into this pandemic as well. It's really been great, like foundational work at the moment. We're seeing the benefits of it now. So yeah, really excited to be here today and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And just wanted to pick up on one of the points that you said that I can definitely relate to. So obviously being an extrovert, not going to lie about it, it's true, but I can totally relate to that because if you're an extrovert, people don't expect you to, you know, have anxiety or to, you know, to be able to deal with that. And I think a lot of people would feel the same, like because you're perceived a certain way or people know you as a, you know, as a certain kind of, I guess, character in the workplace, you feel like it's more difficult to show those vulnerabilities as you move through. And I think, you know, particularly when you're moving, I guess you're progressing in your career as well. So I think that was a really, really great point to sort of harbour on. So thank you. And lastly but not least, hello to Paul.
Hello, thank you.
That wonderful beard.
I know. I'm trying my best to look like Father Christmas. It's going grey enough anyway. I'm Paul Pilling. I'm a tech engineering manager at Covea Digital. Anxiety, I think that's just something that I've learned to live with over the years, you know, right? Probably if you look right back, you know, even from school, you know, where I had my chalkboard and you were called up to do something, like that anxiety all the way, you know, and it's the pressure that people put on you to perform and how you deal with that then causes that anxiety. And I think it's, you know, something that we've definitely started doing at Covea Digital is making sure that we have the right support networks in. You know, we have links in with Andy Man Club, you know, to have stress management workshops for everyone, and everyone's involved to go in them, and just little things like the support helplines that we have, but making sure that as management and leadership we're accessible to people, I think, is the key thing, and making sure that people understand that we're people too. We're not at a level where we then just become impervious to any anxiety or imposter syndrome or worries and concerns. We are people, and we have them ourselves, and I think to show that to people is a strength, and can help them cope with their anxiety as well, and the guilt. Steph mentioned about working at home. Well, I've got 2 young boys, so I'm camped out in my oldest boy's bedroom because that's my new office. So like I've got guilt that I'm taking over his room and leaving coffee stains on his desk and whatever. But it's how you balance that now, and I think that's something that we might see come across today as well.
Yeah, 100% agree with all of that. So I think what we've done is we're going to start inviting some questions in, so I will field them as appropriate. But what I'd kind of really like to ask you all as a group is anybody feeling different in this lockdown than in the first lockdown? Because I think a lot of people felt very, very different, because I guess the seasons we found ourselves in, we were able to go out. I kind of alluded to the dark nights. I know this one's, I think, hit me a lot harder, definitely, even though the time has been shorter. I guess how is everybody feeling in this current situation? And I guess in the run up to Christmas as well, what are people feeling in relation to work? Are you going to be taking that time? Are you not? Paul, do you want to give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, so I agree. It does feel slightly different to the first lockdown, when the sun's out and the sky is blue. Lockdown's a little bit nice, isn't it? You can go for a walk, you can have a break, you can do some exercise before work, but trying to run or go for a cycle or whatever in this lockdown, it's raining, it's cold, it's dark, isn't great. I am going to take time off over Christmas, and I think we've had big discussions about what we're going to do, because we've got elderly family. Are we going to go and see them? We're just going to stay by ourselves. We're just going to stay in our own little bubble. I think that was a hard decision, and it's like, how do you do that, and how do you manage that message to your kids and show that you're making it for the best interest? How a lot of anxiety comes from like context switching and not understanding exactly what's going on. So if I take my boys to see their grandparents and they can't hug them or play Monopoly, sing, do whatever, they're not sure what to do, then that's going to create anxiety in them because they're understanding, they're aware. So it's about managing I think Rich said it on one of these calls, it's about controlling the controllables. Control what you can, and anything that you can't control, then if you can, just let it flow, let it go away from you. Just control what you can control and do it that way.
So we've had a question, and I would like to field it to the group. So Andy said he's starting to feel a little more down recently, and coped okay in the first lockdown, probably like many of us, and has tried to be strong for other people, as probably most of us do if we've got family or children, and in situations you try to be strong for other people. But I guess what he's asking is, how can he prioritize himself and his needs over other people without coming across as selfish? And Steph, do you maybe want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So I think in terms of kind of managing your own expectations and what is comfortable with you to manage, and not comparing yourself with other people, because some people could deal with this amount, some people can deal with this amount, and you're all going to deal with things differently. So not comparing yourself to other people, I think, really helps. I think especially this second lockdown is a little bit different, because I feel like people had permission to have a bit of time for themselves during the first one. It was this completely new situation, and I felt like everybody came together as a community and was like, if you need the time, take it, and that's absolutely fine. And now we've come back into it, it kind of just feels like everyone's go until the end of the year. And I don't know whether that's because we've kind of got a date to look for, even though we're not focusing, we don't know we're going to be out of lockdown in the new year. I know for me, I'm kind of just seeing it as get to the end of the year and then we'll start afresh and I'll figure out the next thing. whereas we didn't have that earlier in the year. So I think it just kind of flowed a little bit better. And I think that kind of relates to what you were saying, Paul, about with your children, almost come back to guilt, like you mentioned before. Like, how do you explain things to people without feeling guilty? I think when you're talking to other members of staff or your family and you don't want to take that time for yourself, it's because you feel guilty. So I'm not sure in terms of advice. I think it's just knowing your limits and giving yourself permission to just say, I'm not okay. And I think that sometimes just opens the conversation where someone else says, actually, I'm really glad you said that because I'm not either. Let's have a chat about it. But I think as much as we, especially if we've got managers on the call, as much as people are just saying, yeah, I'm absolutely fine, people feel like they have to raise the bar and match that. Whereas actually everyone's feeling a little bit crap and it's okay. And I think it just takes people to have that conversation and say, I can't deal with this right now. I'm really sorry. I'm looking after myself. Here are some resources, or let's have a chat tomorrow when I'm in a better headspace and we can just flesh things out rather than pushing your own boundaries and getting to the point where then you need support from somewhere else.
And I think there's something in that about feeling comfortable to actually say, do you know what, I'm not okay and I'm not handling things well, and also addressing it with yourself as well and being like, I'm not okay, I need to take that time. And that's okay to feel like that, like we're in a situation that none of us expected to be in. So how you deal with it is, you know, you're not, that's going to be very, very difficult to navigate, I think, for anybody. So I've got a couple of things here as well, like people just coming in and saying struggling to keep motivated. Actually, I read something, the editor-in-chief from Women's Health, she posted a letter out a few months ago, like in a really honest, candid letter that I think she wrote from her sitting room, and said, I'm struggling to keep motivated. I can't concentrate. I can't work properly. And struggling to see light at the end of the tunnel, and how and when it will end, and missing seeing people and family, which I think we all are. Karen said that, she started a new job and she was suffering from a bit of imposter syndrome. And I think controlling the controllable is definitely something that we need to remind ourselves of. So Claire, I think, how have you, I guess, kept yourself motivated second time around in lockdown? Like, what would you say? And, do you think that you've been kind to yourself in terms of taking those regular breaks and pulling away from stuff when you need to?
Yeah,
I think it's difficult, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really difficult. And I think I really relate to what Steph said about the second lockdown now. It's like the first time we were really conscious of our mental health and our well-being. And I feel like now in the second lockdown, it's sort of like, it is like the new normal, and like expectations have sort of gone higher again. But I have really tried to be really conscious of making sure that I'm taking time out of my day to, before we went into this lockdown, I was back at the gym. That was helping me so much. So this lockdown now, like not being able to like go to my group classes that I love doing, like that was the hardest part for me. But I actually spoke to someone about motivation and how to keep motivated. And I'm going to have to follow up with exactly what this model's called, because I can't remember what it's called. But it's like a values-based motivational model. So really thinking about what is it that makes you, what is it that makes you feel like you've achieved from like a values point of view. And for me, it's like, I need to feel like I'm socially connected. Yeah. I need to feel like I've gone above and beyond. And then sort of planning your week to identify where can you hit those sweet spots. Like really be quite self-aware of what is it that I need to make me feel satisfied. What is it that really drives me and makes me feel motivated? And how can I be proactive in going to seek those things? Because at the moment, they might not be falling into your lap. So how can I sort of manufacture those points in my week to make me feel like I'm satisfied? So I think that's really interesting, because definitely the social connection for me is such a big thing. Coming into December, like love the Christmas party life. So for me, it's like, how can I keep manufacturing that? Whether that's just walking to the coffee shop in the morning so I can see a face. So I think just trying to be proactive in those decisions that I'm making, and trying to just see other people as much as possible for me is the motivation.
And I'm as you know, I'm so similar to you in that respect. It's the social interaction piece, like the missing seeing people. Some people are really working well with working from home, and I think as we move forward to the future, there possibly will be a balance of how many people are allowed to be in the office, and you know, you can strike that balance of being at home. It suits some people because of, you know, commitments that they have, but for me, I love being in the office. I love seeing different people, and you know, when you've got come home, you've got something to talk about. I miss my group classes as well. Is that finding that, and it's very hard to find those sweet spots at the minute. And I think a question from Alice in terms of, you know, how are people keeping their teams together and teams connected, because I think this is something that we found, and particularly with our trainee community, that, you know, part of when you join a business, particularly as early talent, the social aspect and that connection is something that you're joining for and that you crave. So we've had to do a lot of stuff virtually, and I think one of those things is our themes have been about keeping people connected. So how, you know, has anybody got any good ideas in terms of keeping teams connected during this period, especially the festive run up, because people will want to do stuff without feeling that Zoom fatigue? And what have people been doing in that space, I guess, within your own teams? Steph?
Yeah. So, excuse me. We have a thing called an open mic at the Data Shed, where on a Wednesday we have an hour or half an hour slot that's free for people to just kind of pick up and say, right, we want to share some knowledge. And that's been something that we've had in the office as well, and we've transferred it over to be virtual. And we like to push the value of sharing knowledge so that people can share something that they might have learned with someone else. But recently people have been talking about their mental health in these ones. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow on mental health for managers and giving them an outline on how to have a return to work meeting and how to put a wellness plan together. So it's kind of slightly becoming more of a cultural thing, I think. And I feel like it gives people permission to share something that's important to them and for the rest of the team to understand them. And I think especially for new members of staff coming in, that's a really nice open way. In your first week, you're already getting to know someone that might not be in your team, and you're learning about something that's really important to them, and it opens up that conversation later on. So whilst we can't get offline because we can't see people in person, you feel like it's just more than just a meeting, and it's not just about work, you're actually learning about that person. I think that's been really important in terms of like diversity and inclusion at the Shed, because we have celebrated things, obviously Christmas, Easter, Varley, we've done things for Pride Parade and Yorkshire Day. So anything that is important to our team, we say, come to us on a Wednesday, book that slot and tell people about it. And I think that's a really nice way to introduce new people. Also, when people are being inducted, obviously we're doing that virtually as well. Mental health is one of the things that's on the health and safety presentation. It's straight away on your first day, let's talk about this openly. We've got mental health first aiders, we've got an employee assistance programme, and it's not this secret thing that we don't talk about and you only approach it if you've got an issue. It's straight away, day one, we're open about this, come and talk to us if you want, here are some resources, and I'll check back in with you in a week. So it's just about having that really open, honest conversation in the first week. And I think giving people an opportunity to share a bit about themselves and not just about the work that they're doing, I think that really helps, especially virtually.
Yeah, that sounds like an absolutely great idea, and you know, really sort of focusing on the people element and, you know, keeping people connected when they join. Clara and Paul and Sandra, also anything that you all do in that space or have been doing that you think might be, I guess, nice to share?
So I would say that lockdown 1, if you remember back to them days, we used to have regular socials on at the end of like each week on a Friday. We'd finish work slightly early, we'd all get together on a Zoom call, we'd have a drink, we'd have a chat, we'd be in the garden, you know, things like that. I feel that has tailored off and petered off a little bit during this lockdown, definitely. And that idea, Steph, of the open mic, I love that. And it's something that we've been talking about in our leadership team at the moment, is do we just have like an open coffee Teams meeting that people can drop in and out of if they wanted. And that's something that we're floating the idea of, will it work? Will people want to come to it? Will people share? So I think in anything like this, you've just got to try it. And it might work, it might not work. And if it doesn't work, then get the feedback and see how you can maybe tailor it. But I think it's important to just have something that people can use if they want, and get that feedback from everyone. So, you know, if it's just a pocket, a squad, a tribe that can do it themselves. Just give them the power to do it themselves and to grow it. And if it works, then grow it further. But don't force people to do it, because that will just drive up that anxiety and that pressure to attend. It's got to be something that people want to come and share with.
Yeah, 100%. Sandra, anything from you? I thought you might want to.
Yeah, just going back to what you said at the start, Yasmin, about anxiety and how people are feeling this time round and the run up to Christmas. One thing that I'd be quite interested in from the participants and from the panel is what everyone's thoughts are on Christmas working and the days in between Christmas and New Year, for those in leadership roles, how that's been managed with the teams. Because I think someone's posted in the chat about switching off. You know, how do you separate work and home and switch off in the evening when you're working from home? And Yasmin, you said earlier about your concern for everyone this year is you're working from home non-stop, and then you're going into Christmas at home.
Yeah.
I guess how people are, teams and managers and companies are managing that this year. One thing that we've the last couple of years we stayed open, and this year because everyone has struggled so much. I mean, as a business we employ a sociable bunch. We're in recruitment, so everyone's, we all need to kind of be around each other and bounce off each other. So it's been a real struggle being at home. So we've kind of said this year, in order to help everyone's kind of mental health and well-being, is we're going to completely shut down the business for about 2 weeks. So from, I think, the 18th of December will be our last day. Although some of the staff had booked time off, I think there's a difference. There's a whole bringing it back to the guilt thing as well. So the way I thought about it is, say, I don't know, 50-60% of the team are off and the others are working on like a rota-based system. Those that are off, and when you're off and you're on leave and you know that your office is still open and some of your colleagues are working, you can't fully switch off, can you? And then you get that guilt of, oh, so-and-so's managing my client and my business, and should I just check in on my emails every now and then? And so we decided that it would be a good idea this year to completely shut down. But I'd be really interested to hear what others are doing, and if there's anything different that we could be doing, or other businesses that are doing. So I think it's going to be a tough one this year.
It's so tough, and I think kind of going back to that checking email situation, Sandra, like we've been in recruitment for how many years, and I think it's kind of part of if you're a recruiter, that's just the way you are. But actually I've seen it reflecting a lot of people that I've worked with, I think particularly over the last few months. And what we're really trying to do is encourage people to take that Christmas leave, because I think a lot of people are just like, well, especially over the last few months and in the summer, people are like, well, I'm not going to take leave because I can't go anywhere. And it's a bit like, what am I going to do? Everyone else is at work, we're going to sit in my house and all this kind of stuff. So if you've not been lucky enough to get away this year, but Christmas is one of those times that I've always kind of worked towards personally and thought, I'm going to have that 10 days, 2 weeks off for you go into the new year with a clean slate, don't you? But I think it's going to be work dependent. Obviously in a leadership role, things may change. I used to think, and I think this is probably something that I learned from my recruitment days, I kind of vowed when I went I guess, especially when I came from Jet, I was like, I need to not manage my time better, but I want to be able to switch off. And it's something that I say to my trainees. It's something that I say when I speak, in terms of, it's not going to propel your career any further by checking that email at God knows what time at night. People aren't getting the best out of you. And I think I would relate that to taking time off. Like, is your work going to be getting the best out of you? And are you doing the best for yourself by, pushing yourself into that space? I don't think so. But equally, I'm going to be honest, is I don't think I've been a particularly great poster girl, particularly the last couple of months, in terms of taking that time back. And I think this is what that space is for. It's to be honest, sometimes things do take over and you've got to get stuff done. But I am going to try and have some time off dependent on what feeds in, and I would, you know, I will be pushing my team to do the same. I think we all deserve a break and to have time with our families if and when we can. Claire, what about you? Oh, sorry, Paul.
A good thing that I've heard, it's about protecting the asset. You are the asset in your career and in your development and in your family and your friends. You are the asset that they see and that you need to protect. So you wouldn't drive your car, you know, if you're precious about your car, you wouldn't drive it and never check the oil, never check the tires, never check it was fit for purpose. You would always make sure that it was there if you needed it. And you need to think about that about yourself. You are so valuable that if you get 3 hours sleep a night and you're driving yourself crazy with what you've got to do, then you are not going to perform to the level that you expect of yourself, and you're just going to start spiraling down and down and down. So you need to make sure that you do that, you know, whether that's going out for a walk at lunchtime, booking an hour in your manage your diary, and book slots where you can have a regular break, and just leave your phone, or if you got, like, you know, if you need phone for music, just go for a walk, or just get out and get some fresh air, or sit there and listen to music, knit, whatever you want to do that can relieve that stress and that just get you away, and then just do it. And don't feel guilty about it. Just, you know, people will understand. People, if you say, look, this hour protected for me, it's a private appointment, you can't book anything over it, people will start respecting it, and they will start following your lead as well.
Yeah, I think that's something really kind of important that you've raised there that I think I would like to cover. I guess there's that don't take your phone piece, which I agree with, but I think because we are all working virtually, and also I think in terms of, like Steph alluded to this earlier, in terms of comparisons and social media and stuff driving you on there, I think in terms of how you're expected to be and how you're expected to behave in this lockdown. So what you're doing shouldn't be comparable to what everybody else is doing. How, I think, and kind of managing that consumption as well from that perspective. How, Claire, how have you found that in particular in terms of like managing anxiety, kind of, I guess, I say at home and at work? We're at home, aren't we, at work? So how have you, I guess, balanced that with seeing some of the stuff come in? Have you taken any action to, I guess, you know, release a bit from social media? Have you found that's affected how you're feeling?
Yeah, I think social media is an interesting one at the moment, right? Because like that is quite a big form of feeling connected to other people. Yeah. Like it's nice to see what other people are posting and what other people are up to. And I actually started to be on my phone a lot more than I usually would. I'm not usually on social media all the time or anything. And I think I was sort of using that as my way of feeling connected with other people. So I limited my screen time. You can put like little timers on your social media apps. So I've put it's on to 1 hour. So after 1 hour in the day, then I get a notification saying you've got 5 minutes. And then it goes off. But do you know what? If I'm in the mood to be on social media more one day, then you can turn that off as well. But for me, I just wanted to take more of a proactive step in like, this isn't how I want to be spending my time. I don't want to be glued to my phone, but time runs away with you, doesn't it? Like 1 minute you're looking at your pal's Instagram account, the next minute you're looking at, I don't know what, Kim Kardashian's 40th birthday pics. But like sometimes it makes me feel good. And I think it's really important to, if you do feel like that sort of behavior is good for you in that moment, don't beat yourself up for it, because I think we're all our own worst and harshest critics, aren't we? And I think this lockdown has sort of taught me to just go easier on myself. Like sometimes I do have unhealthy habits, but so what? If it makes me feel good in the moment, then I'll carry on. And I know that Alicia's asked for some positive comments of what we've learned, and I think for me, I think this lockdown has really helped me to be more sustainable in my approach to work. And I think across all businesses, we've sort of like, there were sort of hints of it before, weren't there, about like that trust culture and not having presenteeism. And I think this pandemic has really sort of brought that to light. And now, like, no one is, well, I think maybe depending on your business, But definitely at Sky Betting and Gaming, if you want to log off at 2 p.m, no one's asking any questions about it. And we should just be trusted to do our work. And I'm a big believer in that. I don't have to book annual leave if I want a wellbeing day off. And I think that's been a real positive, is trusting people to get on with their work and just be honest when they don't feel up to it either. And for me, that's been a real positive.
And I think, unfortunately, that there will be some businesses who aren't in that space, or who are slowly getting to that space. So I think this is why it's important to share what other businesses are doing. Like the Wellbeing Days is an absolutely fantastic idea, and I think it's probably something that we could all take on board, and that is something that is probably essential to people's mental health as we're moving through this pandemic and this, I guess, crazy world that we're living in at the moment. Steph, have you got any positives that you've taken from the new normal?
Yeah, I think, it kind of plays on what other people have been saying, but just having that work-life balance, and I think personally, being able to have a little bit more flexibility about what I want to do with my spare time. So I think before, it was a lot of my day was focused around my work, getting to work, doing work, going home from work, and then the weekend was the days that I don't work. And it was kind of just all based around work. Whereas now I feel like it's just incorporated into my day a lot more, and I've got the evening, I've got time in the morning that I would be commuting in, and I've got options, and I think it's just taking advantage of those options. Having said that, I think there is a lot of comparison, especially from the first lockdown, where a lot of people were go, go, go. And I'm that kind of person. I picked up 2 courses I was doing. I started doing something else. I started doing this exercise, and I was like, I'm going to fill all my time. But for other people, that's not how they work, and that's absolutely fine. So if you want to use that time that you were commuting to just sit and watch TV, or like Paul said, knit, do something that makes you happy, that's absolutely fine. And I think that's the main positive I've taken away from this, is learning about other people, giving them the time to explain what makes them happy. And it kind of opens your eyes up to a little bit to say, like, how are you spending your day? Because this is how I'm spending my day, but not everybody's doing it like that, and that's absolutely fine. And I think again, that opens up those conversations with people, and just makes us understand a little bit more about what other people are going through and what's important to them.
Perfect. Sandra, what about you? I feel like you were going to come in there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I was just going to say, we were talking about wellness days. Might be a bit of a silly question. How do they work? Is it a day where you just pick, that's a day that I'm not going to work, and you think it's all about you and looking after yourself, or is there more to it than that?
So I think I don't know why this happens, because we're all adults, but I think in the workplace, I think sometimes people just need permission to do some things. And I think the Wellbeing Day sort of gives a structure where people don't have to feel guilty for taking an extra day off. So not all teams will be able to do it in the same way, because if you're shift workers, then it won't be able to work quite the same. But in my team, we've said that we will have 1 day a month where just book it in, take it off, just let your line manager know it's not annual leave, but just go look after yourself. And if you can, just send us a pic to show us what you're doing with your Wellbeing Day, give us some inspo kind of thing. And it's been really popular. It's been so nice, and nice to have it appreciated as, like, with annual leave, I always do it if I'm going away on holiday or if I'm doing something, and that really has given me a day to just think about going out for a walk and spending it doing something mindful.
That's so nice. That's really nice. Yeah.
I think something nice that's coming in, and I think it's important to focus on the positives as well at the minute. Positive number 1 today, sun is shining. Well, it is where I am anyway. So what have you embraced, or do you value now that you wouldn't have had if it hadn't been for this pandemic? So I think personally, my other half would have been in America, but unfortunately had to come home and he's stuck with me. So I'm valuing that. He would probably agree. But I actually went over to visit him, and we got sent back literally before the lockdown. He's been here ever since. So personally, I am very, very grateful for that, because I think I do. Kudos to all of the people who either have to isolate on their own or they live alone. Like, you know, the mental strength that must take is absolutely incredible. I think that personally I would have really, really struggled. So that's one thing I'm very, very grateful for. Steph, what about you? What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for the extra time, and I think having that extra time gives you that little bit of extra space to think about how you're feeling, because you don't have that pressure to fill it up. I think you get home from work and you think, well, now I need to cook, and if you've got kids, I now need to sort them out, and then I'll need to do something. It's almost like you've already got this schedule in your head, whereas now I think, yeah, the time that you've got to just like, okay, I'm done and I'm going to take some time for myself, and recognise that other people now are starting to talk about mental health a bit more, and other people are doing the same thing. So I think I really appreciate the fact that these conversations are happening, and you know, there are people to talk to, whereas I think before it was a little bit like you had to reach rock bottom until you reached out to people for support, whereas now conversations are happening. I think that's great because it does give you that permission to just have a chat and not feel bad about it.
Well, what about you?
I think I value my family a lot more than I did, and I was always a big family man, but I think I've got to spend more time with my boys so I can take them to school. I can see them in the morning before, you know, normally I was up and out before they were even off, and I'd get home and I'd maybe have an hour with them after I got home. You know, I can get to have tea with them a couple of nights a week. I can make them breakfast. I can take them to school, and fitting them around and seeing them mature and grow over this like nearly a year, isn't it? You know, let's face it, like, and change so much that I would have missed a lot of that, and that's a massive value to me. And it made me realize, and this is going to sound dead soppy, so I apologize. It made me realize how lucky I am to have an amazing wife, because you know she's a nurse, so she's got like a big pressure job, and during the pandemic and things, she's been redeployed, and she might be getting redeployed again. But when you've got kids and when you're working, you don't realize how much you neglect each other as a partnership, and we've managed to like really reconnect and do that, and that's been a massive bonus for me, and it's helped with anxiety. It's helped with, you know, because you've got a strong support network around you. I can talk to her about anything. If she talks to me about her job, then it just goes over my head, but I'll still listen. But it's just, you know, that's nice, and that's a massive value. And friends, WhatsApp, we can talk about social media and Facebook and Twitter and all that, but without that, then I wouldn't have seen some of my mates in Liverpool and in Leeds and Ireland and places all like that. You know, it's forced us to readdress how we interact with people as well. So I think that's been a win rather than a negative.
Claire, what about you? And then we'll go to Sam.
I guess just carrying on with, like, I guess this time has really made us think about the basics in life, and I've been a broken record, me and my partner, saying how grateful we are for our house and our garden. And we do not have a big house or a big garden, but just having our own space. Like we're very sociable. We're always out. Like we're never at home. We just come home to sleep, kind of thing. But this has just made me appreciate how lucky we are to have this roof over our head and the space outside that we could sit in the summer and stuff. Just really grateful for that.
Yeah, and interesting that you say that, being a very social pair, as I know. So with that, I think probably comes its own challenges. So have you got any like fun stuff that you've been doing, I guess, inside the house that you've kind of, you know, thought, well, actually we can't go out and do what we'd normally do and have a couple of drinks or go for some dinner, because we're the same. So is there anything, you know, I guess, that you've done that you think actually could share with everybody that they might be able to take on board?
I know that you're asking me this because you know that we're a creative couple, but we've literally nearly completed Netflix, and that's about as good as it's got. But for us, just taking the downtime and taking a step back for us has been such a shift in the way that we work, because we're so 100 miles an hour. So I think just embracing that, and also not putting any pressure on ourselves to have to feel like we're doing anything else.
Yeah,
I get a lot of anxiety actually with I put a lot of social pressure on myself. I find it difficult to say no to people and social occasions because I get FOMO, and I feel like I want to be there for other people. So this for us has been a real good thing to just really take a step back and think about how much just that downtime is so important for your mental health and anxiety as well.
Totally agree with that. I think I was having to think about this the other day, and I was like, how on earth did I do everything that I used to do? Be like, gym, work, see friends for dinner, or then I might be running an event, or then I might be at an event, like speaking or something. And I just kind of thought to myself, how on earth did I fit it in? I went into the office last week and I was like, that took my whole day. I don't know how I used to do what I used to do. It's crazy, isn't it? And I was like, how am I going to fit everything in? Because I guess, like you say, you've shifted the balance in terms of how you work and how you do things, and to be honest, I was very excited to go into the office because it was a complete day out, but it's as good as it gets these days. But it's totally true, isn't it? It forces you to take a step back and actually look at yourself, and maybe actually think that, the way that you were, not the way that you were living, but the stuff that you were putting yourself through, and the social pressures and the work related pressures that you're putting yourself through on a day-to-day basis, actually not okay. I think the world is certainly going to be a different place in terms of that, and it's nice to hear that you've kind of taken that on board and given yourselves that time, really. Sandra, what about you? What are you most grateful for?
A number of things that Claire mentioned actually really resonate with me and my life and my journey this year. Both myself and my husband do run at 100 miles an hour. I've got a little boy who's in reception at year 1 now at school, and I've constantly been on the go. I remember once my husband said to me, "You're not running an emergency services, no one's going to die if you don't get out on the door." And but I feel like it's taken me a long time. It didn't happen just like that, but over the course of this year, I think I've really slowed down, which is really good. And I remember thinking this morning when I was getting myself out the door, and I just thought, oh, like that's the time. Usually I'd be like manic, really manic. So I get anxiety as well, and I'd be like really, really manic, and I'd be stressing about it and maybe snapping at my son and my husband because I just couldn't get out of the house quick enough. So I think that for me, and looking more inwards, looking at more about me and who I am and how I can help myself in order to help the business and the people at Transition Partners. So I think that's been really good for me, and I don't think that I would have done that this year if it wasn't for the pandemic.
All really valid points, and I think all of us will probably agree that we've been forced to sort of take a look at ourselves a bit more inwardly and say, well, actually that's not okay, or this is actually how we feel. And I wonder if it might be sort of prudent, because I'm kind of obviously keeping an eye on the time and sort of waiting for more questions as well, but I'm wondering if it might be prudent to sort of, I guess, finish on a positive note, because I think we're all about the positivity today. But I guess in terms of, something that you're, hoping for in 2021, it can be anything, I think. And also, I guess, one thing that you're going to do to take care of yourself after, your learnings this year in terms of in the workplace. Obviously, you all seem to be doing some really great stuff already, but we can always improve and do better, right? So what, I guess, from your key learnings that will you take with you into the new year?
Sorry, just really quickly, I think there's a couple of questions on. I don't know if you can see the Q&A box.
No, I might have. No.
A few people have asked about podcasts and blogs.
Oh yeah, podcasts and blogs as well.
Yeah, I think, and there was another question on the chat about that. Are there any podcasts, blogs, articles that the panel would recommend? And then also there was a question about any advice on how to adapt to things when and if we return to the office. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts around that.
You might be a good one for podcasts, blogs.
This is the point where I shamelessly plug the podcast that I host. But if anyone's interested in mental health and wellbeing in the workplace, then there's a really nice group of us that have all come together to form an anti-stigma well, it's a national campaign, it's business-led. It's called This Is Me. And there's now a Yorkshire group, This Is Me Yorkshire, lots of businesses coming together to story tell in the workplace. And I host the podcast for This Is Me. We've had some really good guests on there. We've had the CEO from Leeds City Council, Stevie Ward from Leeds Rhinos, who runs Mentality, a men's mental health group. Really good speakers on that podcast. So give that one a listen if you're interested in mental health in the workplace in Yorkshire, which is great.
Brilliant. Nice for people to connect as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Steph, Paul, anything else that you would, I guess, recommend that you utilise or look at?
So obviously there's loads of really good transition partners podcasts out there. Just to help you out there, Sandra.
Love that. Thanks, Paul.
They are very good, I have to say.
They are really good, actually. And I would say podcasts, I try not to have work-related podcasts outside work too much, and because I like to listen to something that's just totally random. It could be more about personal development, so like your Simon X and things like that you might want to listen to. And I try to listen to, as weird as it sounds, I try to listen to anything that's not too heavily linked to work as a podcast. With blogs, there's loads of great blogs out there. Natalie Pierce, who I reshared the other day, she's got some really good stuff. I always look at her stuff, and Medium's a really good website to start finding blogs and useful tips that you can bring into the workplace and to your own personal development. So I think it's just a case of try things out. Don't be afraid to try it out, and then if you like it, keep on with it, and if you don't, bin it off. No one really cares. It's just a podcast, you know what I mean? And it's not you're not hurting.
Just try it, I guess. So I think a couple of questions centered around, as Sandra was saying, sort of adapting to things as and when we return to normal, whatever normal may be. And I think Fiona had said something earlier about feeling anxiety around tears and when lockdown's lifted. So have any of you, I guess thinking about obviously moving into December and the new year, and we don't really know the scope of what's going to happen. How are you preparing for that, and can you even prepare for it? Really, it's all quite a personal journey. So
I think I want to be, sorry, Steph.
It's all right, no, go on.
I think just as a short point, I just think, obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but I think I want to be really conscious about everything that we've gained this year, all of the positives that we've taken, and just not fall quickly back into old habits, because I think it would be a waste of all the great things that have come out of this year. So I want to be really self-conscious in those decisions that I'm making and keep hold of all the good stuff that we've got from 2020.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think kind of related to what Claire said earlier about not feeling guilty about slipping up sometimes if you want to do something one day, just understanding that you are allowed to change your mind. Like if something works 1 week for you, then that's great. And then if next week you decide that that's not at all working for you and you need to do something different, that's fine too. I'm a very logical person in the way I think of things. So the way that I'm kind of approaching dealing with anxiety potentially for the next 4 months or so, let's say we go back to the office in March time, is I try to look at it as like I would if I was going on a diet. So treat mental health like you do physical health. So if I wanted to lose some weight, I would look at what I'm putting in my body. What are the things that are around me? What are the things that are going to help me lose weight? Should I reach out to some groups? Do I go to Slimmers World? Do I reach out to a friend who wants to do Couch to 5K? I think it's the same kind of thing and the same kind of approach is saying, okay, if I want to fit in a dress in 4 months' time, I want to go back to work in 4 months' time. What are the steps that I need to take to do that? Like I would with physical health, I'd reach out to friends, do that, reach out. There's loads of groups available. What am I surrounding myself with? Are the people that are around me helping me feel good? Just like I would, is the food that I'm eating making me feel good? I like to try and compare it in that way and think, well, what would I do if this was an issue, if I'd hurt myself or if I had a physical ailment? I think we've just got to see it as health in general and stop kind of separating it and think, this is how I treat physical health, this is how I treat my mental health. It's your health at the end of the day, and you need to just see it as a combined thing. What are the things that are going to help them both get? Yeah. And they usually come together as well. I think recognizing that mental health has a big impact on your physical health. So sometimes we don't always necessarily think that we've got anxiety, or we don't realise that we're depressed, because we might have a stomach ache, or we might have a headache, or we might feel sleepy. And we need to just bring those things together and realise that it's your one body and mind is all connected.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest takeaway.
I think that's an absolutely wonderful analogy, and I think it's something that we've seen so much this year with being in lockdown and a lot of virtual classes. A lot of people are now saying online that your mind connects to your body, and it's like, people exercise obviously to feel good, but it benefits your mind so much as well, and that connection is something that I hope that a lot of people will have made this year, but they both complement each other and feed each other to that extent. So yeah, wonderful analogy, Steph, really good. And I think I'll probably utilise that in terms of
I will as well.
And me.
Something about having that time and making that time to prepare, isn't it, to go back to work rather than leaving it to when you are going back. So yeah, really good.
Just conscious of time now, and I think we've had a few people drop off, obviously, probably to get back to work or have some lunch. So there was the last question, Yasmin. I think that might be a good one for the next session, actually, and it'll probably be a bit more, I guess, nearer to the time that most people are going to return back to some sort of normal, around adapting and kind of what does this mix look like. So I think it might be a good one to discuss in the next couple of months.
I reckon so.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for all your help. It was absolutely great session. Really enjoyed it. I've made loads of notes as well, if you can see that. I think my team will be very pleased because I'm going to take away a number of positive things to implement. And so I really hope that all the participants and even the panel, that you all gain something from this today, and I really look forward to sharing all our ideas and challenges and struggles and difficulties with you all again, because it's been fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to the wonderful panel. It was so lovely to speak to you all and hear your words of advice, and thank you to everybody who has attended, and I hopefully we'll see you in a couple of months.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.